Hello everyone. Let's start with our conference number 9, the infradimensions. Well, when we talk about the infradimensions, it's necessary firstly to clarify the meaning of the word infradimension, right? Dimension is a level of consciousness. That's it. No more than that. Level of consciousness. That's it, right? Unfortunately, many of us believed previously, probably, that the word dimension is something beyond of our understanding, something with mystery, all right? But it's necessary to clarify that it's only a level of consciousness. That's it, no more. And infra means something like lower, right? That's all. Now, the main goal of this conference is to understand that not only there are 9 Dantean circles under our Earth planet, under the surface of our Earth planet, but also inside of each one of us. So if we want to know the universe, our Earth planet, our solar system, our galaxy, our Milky Way, it is necessary firstly to know ourselves deeply in each one of the levels of our psyche. Know yourself, and you shall know the universe and its gods. That's a statement of the ancient Greeks. All right, so yes, inside of each one of us, we do carry 9 infradimensions. Each one of us, the human beings, carry inside the visible moon. The visible psychological moon, in fact. And this one is related, associated with the psychological flaws or defects that we know we carry inside, envy, rancor, lust, etc., etc., and also is associated with the 9 infradimensions. All right? First, it's necessary to clean our visible psychological moon to then later clean our occult psychological moon. This one is only possible to study and to clean it when we start the process of the mastery, the spiritual mastery. As soon as we clean the 9 infradimensions in each one of us, daily floss, excuse me please, our daily floss and the 9 infradimensions, as we clean our visible moon, which is inside of our solar plexus. Within the next minutes, we'll explain it better, right? Then we have the right to establish a correct and proper work, esoteric work, in our own occult moon, occult psychological moon, right? This one is related with the 9 infradimensions of our Earth planet. Authentic white masters of the White Brotherhood have gone, all of us without exception, under the surface of our Earth planet to make this inner spiritual work. All right. Now, and when we talk about the occult moon, it's referred to the causal defects or flaws that we carry inside, the 7 capital defects, greed, gluttony, envy, pride, lust, etc., laziness, etc., and the infradimensions of our Earth planet. Not only the causal defects, the 7 heads of suffering, but also the 9 infradimensions of our Earth planet, which are under the surface of our Earth planet. In next video conferences, we'll talk about the infradimensions of our Earth planet, all right? But today, the information, the teaching, will be guided only to understand better our own 9 infradimensions, our psychological visible moon, right? When a person is honestly, sincerely interested in purifying himself or herself, necessarily the person should start a daily battle, psychological battle against himself, against herself, to purify himself or herself. All right? If we don't want to delete our ego consciously, voluntarily, working with the psychological death, as it was taught before, previously in the last video conference, the one about evolution, involution, and revolution. Unfortunately, the nature in the involution process of our nature, passing through the different kingdoms of nature in the evolution part, will delete us the ego no matter what. Ego should be deleted. Voluntarily or without our will. But ego has a limit that's necessary to reflect, it's necessary to analyze on it. All right? Our psychological effects take control of our magnetic centers. All right? Of our sexual apparatus. And also our psychological effects or psychological flaws that form our ego take control of our sexual creative energy. That's why it's necessary to understand each one of the 9 infradimensions that takes control of our magnetic centers, sexual apparatus, and sexual creative energy to work more seriously, accurately, if possible from instant to instant, with the revolution of the consciousness, with our own daily purification, to understand better why we feel what we feel, why we think what we think, and why we react in the way we react externally. All right? Well, now please, let's start the explanations about the 9 infradimensions of each one of us. Well, the first infradimension is called the infradimension of moon, or also called the sphere of moon. Sphere of moon or infradimension of moon. It's associated with the planet moon, right? Directly. And the main psychological group of defects we'll find here are the ones associated with laziness. For example, our bad will against anyone in life. Any type of subdivision that is related and associated with laziness has the relation with the sphere of the moon. Inside of each one of us, we find the sphere of the moon in our sexual center. The sexual center is located in our coccyx bone, which is the first bone of our dorsal spine. Right? Each one of the magnetic centers of our human machine has one specific group of psychological defects to work with. So the more we establish the self-observation in our lives as much as we can daily, the more we'll balance each one by one, each one of our magnetic centers. Laziness, with all its subdivisions, controls our will to transmute sexually, for example, using wisely our sexual center. Laziness is the guilty that we are not interested anymore in sexual alchemy, in these mysteries, since hundreds and even thousands of years ago. So if we establish the process of self-observation and the inner petition to our Divine Mother in order to delete the different psychological flaws that control our sexual center, which is located in our coccyx bone, gradually we'll feel more vitality, right? Not only for entering sooner than later in the processes of sexual alchemy, but also for the rest of our duties of our daily life. Laziness is the worst defect that nowadays is controlling our entire mankind, specifically our teenagers. Also, obviously, the rest of the society, but specifically our teenagers are being more than absolutely controlled and governed by laziness. That's why this incredible and never seen before sexual degeneration in our youth. Not all of them, obviously. Not all of them. I won't generalize about this information. But it's necessary to accept this human degeneration, this sexual degeneration in which we are nowadays, currently. All right? So, this one is located in our sexual center, coccyx bone. Second infradimension, also called a sphere of Mercury, related, associated with the planet Mercury of our own solar system. Excuse me. This sphere, this infradimension in our human machine is located in our instinctive center. Instinctive center. If you want to check again at least once more, video conference number 4, named the 7 centers of the human machine, probably you'll understand it better. Instinctive center. This instinctive center is located in our sacrum bone. A bit above of our coccyx bone. The group of psychological eyes or psychological defects, flaws that is controlling our second infradimension related with the planet Mercury, literally of our own solar system, are those details called the fornicators. If we continue spilling our sexual creative energy in our sexual intercourses, we'll continue creating more and more psychological flaws, psychological defects. By law, we have the right of practicing heterosexual intercourses, yes, but without going to the extremes. Unfortunately, nowadays, many times, specifically in the first stages of our datings or marriages, we do practice going to the extremes sex. We spill our sexual creative energy too much nowadays. Unfortunately, fornication is the origin of the creation of ego. Daily, probably many of us, not of us, but many of us have had sex twice per day, 3 times per day. Specifically during the first stages of our relationships. Unfortunately, lust is a reality, a huge reality inside of each one of us. All those fornicators we carry inside, it's necessary to delete them in order to release from this psychological defect the virtue trapped inside of each one, which is chastity. Remember that our instinctive center manages our waters, blood, water, and so on, okay? Saliva, for example. So it's very important to understand the importance of our sexual creative energy, because the more we continue fornicating in our sexual intercourses, the more our illnesses will be in our human machine. More and more different types of illnesses will appear inside of each one of us. But if we start different types of reflection, of analysis about the importance of our sexual creative energy, the health, our health will increase, will be better and better and better each week, each month, each year more. All right? And remember, if we continue spilling, wasting our sexual creative energy, our semen, we won't create our inner bodies to have real representation in the higher dimensions of the universe. It's very important to respect sex. Sex is something sacred, and we haven't understood it. We use our sexuality, our sexual creative energy to have fun, to feel pleasure and pain, even pain. using correctly our sexual creative energy, we may enter to the paradise, literally. There are some inner paradises internally in the higher dimensions of the universe, and the unique possibility of again entering over there is using the old secret of all those esotericists, of all those authentic spiritual masters, which is called sexual alchemy. Infradimension number 3 is also called the sphere of Venus. Venus is associated intimately with the planet Venus of our solar system. Inside of each one of us is located in our lower emotional center, at the level of our solar plexus, but on our dorsal spine, literally on one specific vertebra of our dorsal spine, at the level of our solar plexus. Lower emotional center. Lower emotional center. Here, the type of psychological flaws we find are our desires, our pleasures. With the self-observation of our desires and pleasures, the desire of doing drugs, the desire of masturbate ourselves, the desire of talk about the rest of the people in a bad way, in a bad mood, the pleasure of smoking, the pleasure of having sex twice per day, for example, the desire of going to parties as much as we can, the desire of watching TV, the desire of suffering, desire of playing, of drinking alcohol, of criticizing others' lives, must be observed to delete them. Let's say something else. Desire is the origin of any strength. All right? Of any strength. If we don't delete our desires, we'll become slaves of our desires. Slaves of, for example, the desire of going to bed too late at night, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., midnight. We become slaves of that specific psychological flaw, for example, the desire of drinking alcohol once, twice per week, for example, the desire of watching TV as much as we can daily. But inside of each one of the desires, applying the psychological depth, remember there is an inner strength. It's necessary to be owners of our own strength to achieve self-control. Desire to fornicate, for example. Pleasure of making oral sex, anal sex. Threesomes. Doing drugs. Judging others. We feel a specific pleasure. A specific, pleasure when we judge others' lives, for example. If we observe ourselves seriously, at the very moment we are judging others' lives, for example, will detect a specific pleasure inside. Desire of smoking, etc., etc. It's necessary to learn to be natural people for sure. It's great, for example, to go to the gym to practice any sport, but without going to the extremes. All right? If we delete our desires, our pleasures that are related with our emotional center, remember, at the level of our solar plexus, but on our dorsal spine, we'll be owners of our own inner strength and will achieve our own self-control. But if we don't, we'll become ourselves in slaves of ourselves. Due to the reality that many or most of our desires and pleasures are ego, are subjective elements, are the cause of sufferings. Right? Inside of our desires is our fire. Esoterically, the symbolism of fire is love. That's why it's something with urgency to release our inner strength, to act with love. Now, infradimension number 4. Infradimension number 4. Let's do something here, please. Excuse me. Infradimension number 4 is also called sphere of sun. Associated literally with our planet Sun. The Sun is not a ball of fire. Inside of the Sun, which is the balance, the center of our solar system, there is a mankind that we cannot imagine. They are millions of years ahead of us. They do have a spiritual advance that we can't imagine. Also, their technology is something never seen before. It's incredible. The mankind of Sun is something unique. This is a planet. This is not a ball of fire. As our scientists have told us, it is not like that. With astral travels or with the creation of the astral solar body, any one of us, without exception, if we work seriously internally, we may have the right of having different interactions with them, of knowing them, of being in interaction with them. It's more than possible. It's necessary to delete the ego. They are people without ego. Mankind of this planet don't have ego, only consciousness, only wisdom. Their inner being is a reality inside of each one of them. And when we talk about this sphere of sun, or fourth infradimension, it's associated with balance, okay? But If we talk about the infra part of all these explanations, the opposite of balance is waste and greed. The location in our human machine is our lower intellectual center, on a specific vertebra on our dorsal spine, at the level of our heart, on our dorsal spine. If in the positive way our sun represents in our solar system the balance of our solar system, because the different orbits of our solar system, all of them without exception, go around of our sun. Talking in the psychological part, is necessary, it's important to understand the need, the urgency of detecting our desires of wasting when it's not necessary, and our greeds. Have we wasted too much money without urgency, without need in reality? Have we been controlled by this psychological flaw? Probably yes. It represents the extremes. And every extreme, without exception, origins karma, origins suffering. So, if possible, and if any one of us want to really start a correct process of daily purification, is something with urgency to apply the self-observation daily, or at least as much as we can, to these type of desires, and also these type of desires. If we delete these two extremes, psychological extremes, that are the opposite to the virtue of the balance, will establish the balance inside of each one of us. Remember, self-observation, immediately the inner petition to your Divine Mother mentally, sincerely, from the bottom of your hearts. My Divine Mother, please delete me this desire of wasting this money that is not necessary. My Divine Mother, delete me this psychological defect that is controlling me right away, right now. When, at the very moment, we're feeling that we are being governed by any one of these extremes, all right, to establish the balance inside of each one of us. In fact, if we analyze another example, here, the heart should be the balance between our brain and our sexual apparatus, our sexual glands. You see? You see? This is the balance. But unfortunately nowadays, we've gone to the extremes. We've given too much importance to the intellectual parts of life, and we are in a sexual degeneration never seen before. The balance is in the heart. All right? And in fact, at the same time, these psychological extremes don't let us to build, to create, using properly and wisely our sexual creative energy through sexual alchemy with a person of the opposite sex, the inner solar bodies to know the rest of the solar system, galaxy, and universe. These psychological defects steal our energy to transmute correctly our sexual energies in order to create those solar inner bodies. Let's continue. Infradimension number 5. Infradimension number 5 is also called a sphere of Mars. Sphere of Mars or infradimension of Mars. It's related, associated also with our planet Mars. The planet Mars of our own solar system. The name of our own solar system, just like a bracket, like a parenthesis in our conference, is ORS. This is the name of our solar system, ORS. It's located physically in our own human machine, in our motor center. At the level of our larynx, of our throat, but in our dorsal spine, there is our motor center. This magnetic center controls the movements of our physical bodies. And the psychological defect or flaw that is associated with this sphere of Mars, of fifth infradimension of Mars, is anger. We can be blinded by anger. And this is an incredible reality in our mankind. Thanks to this psychological defect, we can commit the worst of our actions in our lives. We can go to jail. We can go straight to the hospital. And even 3 meters under the surface of our Earth planet, directly to the cemetery. Thanks to this ego, we can destroy our life and others' lives as well. In the positive way, Mars, in its positive way, Mars teaches us about the good use of the strength, of physical strength. But today we are talking about the negative part of Mars. Everything in life has his duality. And for sure, right now, it's necessary to understand, sooner than later, the urgency of deleting our inner angers. All those violent movements against our pets, our relatives, our nature, against ourselves, for example, against our couple, against our kids. Our aggressive words, for example, full of anger against others. Aggressive words, excuse me, please, here again. Full of anger. The more we are controlled by anger, the more we are pride. I don't know if you knew it. I don't know if you knew it. The more anger we have inside, we carry inside, we feed inside, the more pride we are. And these two psychological heads of suffering should be deleted, not only for our own good, but also for a common good. All right? When we are not patient people, we are controlled at the same time by anger. All right? And this specific psychological effect wastes our sexual creative energy internally. And this psychological flaw makes us commit the worst crimes in the history of mankind. We are blinded when we are being governed by this psychological defect. We can kill anyone with anger. Anyone. Even our beloved ones. And this is a reality. Have you seen news? Have you seen newspapers? That's why it's necessary to analyze, to reflect on all our egos, psychological defects. All right, let's continue. Sixth infradimension. That sixth infradimension is also called sphere of Jupiter. Jupiter. When we talk about Jupiter, exactly the same as we've been telling. It's associated with the planet Jupiter as well. It's located internally in our pituitary gland. Pituitary gland, that third eye that Hinduism and Buddhism have taught us. Pituitary gland. Right? When we talk about this sixth infradimension, the specific type of psychological defects are our tyrants, our own tyrants. Right? For example, details of this psychological defect. When we don't respect others' free will. When we want to silence anyone else in life with physical strength. When we silence others due to any reason, we are being like this. Right? When we, for example, with greed related with this defect, we don't want to be generous with money, for example, with the movement of money in our society. When having enough money in our lives, we don't give food to our kids. We don't give home to our beloved ones. Different nations nowadays in our Earth planet are being governed by tyrants. And excuse me, I don't like always to talk about politics, but if you see the cases of Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, and more countries all around the world, North Korea, the leaders of those nations are being controlled and governed by these specific types of psychological defects. This is a reality, and all of us without exception are human machines. We are not real human beings. Real human beings don't do all these things. Never ever. We are only humanoids if we continue doing our lives as we've been during the last decades or even centuries of our lives. And all of us without exception have these type of psychological flaws inside of each one of us. The tyrants of our inner world. When we, for example, obligate our kids to eat something they don't like to. When we put pressure on our beloved ones, on our nieces, nephews, kids, sons, daughters, to study a career that they don't like to study. For example, we are being tyrants in that way, in that very moment. When we don't respect others' beliefs or others' religions. When we want to delete or eliminate religions in our countries. This is a reality in Venezuela. This is a reality in China. Unfortunately, excuse me, but this is a reality. This is a reality in Cuba, North Korea, Nicaragua. When you delete, the initiative in your society, the individual initiative in your society, you're being tyrant. Respect others' beliefs. Be generous with others' ideas. If you have the dharma of being millionaire or even billionaire, try to share money in a conscious way. Consciously, with wisdom, correctly, as a result of analysis, of reflections. And not only wasting your money as never seen before, no. Based on the reflection of the analysis. All right? Let's continue. The seventh infrared dimension is the sphere, also called the sphere of Saturn. Here, this one is related. When we talk about pituitary gland, also we are talking at the same time about the superior emotional center, okay? Superior emotional center. Excuse me. Superior emotional center. Pituitary gland. Here, seventh sphere or seventh infrared dimension, pineal gland. Pineal gland. superior intellectual center. Superior intellectual center, pineal gland. Here the relation, the association is with the words, with the psychological flaws against nature, Holy Spirit, specifically, basically. And when we talk about it, we are talking about sexual energy or sexual creative energy at the same time. Different crimes we've been committing against our own psychological nature, physical nature, and others' physical nature are as follows. For example, masturbation. Yes, we are talking here sexually. Here we are specifically talking about sex. Lust, homosexualism, lesbianism, rape, sexual harassment, what else? Oral sex, anal sex, for example, when we send our pets to the veterinarian to have a surgery to never have reproduction. When we are stopping the reproduction in our pets, in our mascots, who we are to decide that another different being, a physical being, don't have the right of reproducing itself? This is a crime against nature. We are mixing nowadays different types of vegetables and fruits to create a third type of product of vegetable or fruit. Those experiments of science, of our science, are a crime against nature. Please let nature without touching it. Don't mix, for example, lemons with tangerines. Don't mix, please, this vegetable with this one. Let the nature tranquil, quiet. We are not gods to believe that we can change nature as we think is correct. Not only when we talk about vegetables or fruits, talking about the vegetable kingdom of nature, but also talking about our sexual apparatus, our sexual glands. Our current scientists are making these different types of experiments with sexual glands. It is not allowed by divine law, by divine hierarchies. They don't allow us to do that. A need origins karma. When we cheat on our couple, obviously, we are committing a crime. And it is against the sexual creative energy. And when we talk about the Holy Spirit, We are literally talking about the sexual creative energy. Let's continue with the two last infradimensions. Infradimension number 8, also called sphere of Uranus. Here, yes, it's related and associated directly with our planet Uranus of our solar system. And it's located in our human machine, in our human physical body. Here we're talking about literally our sexual creative energy, our seed, our semen. Okay? The type of psychological flaws we find here are the liars. Every tiny lie keeps us far away from our inner father. Who of us has never said a lie? Probably most of us have said a lie even once in our lives. At least once. Most of us, for sure. If we want to decontaminate our sexual creative energy, to become it pure and more pure, and establish a daily process of purification of our sexual creative energy, it's necessary to self-observe our lies. Because inside of each one of our lies, there is the truth. This is the opposite virtue inside of each lie. We say daily or once per week, once per month, etc., etc. And the truth is inside of each one of us and represents our own inner being, our inner God, our inner consciousness. If we continue pronouncing lies, it is not possible to release the truth from inside. To purify gradually, daily, little by little, grain by grain, and it's been told, our sexual creative energy. In our sexual creative energy is our Holy Spirit, literally. Right there is our own Holy Spirit, believe it or not. Our inner God, our inner Master. The purification of our sexual creative energy needs to be a reality for our own good again, and also for a common good. Because probably many of us could become an example for the rest of the mankind. Why not? That's possible. All right? We say lies, for example, when we made our religions something fake. When we make false currencies. For example, we are adulterating our religions, so we're liars. We are adulterating our currencies in different nations. This is a reality. Adulterating the currencies. We are being liars. It origins karma, for sure. When we are hypocrites, for example, as well at the same time we are being liars. When we, for example, promise anything to our relatives, neighbors, co-workers, classmates, and we never fulfill what we already promised. If we say anything, please fulfill it. Apply it in the reality. When we advise others to fornicate, for example, all right? And all of us without exception, all of us without exception have these mistakes, psychological flaws inside of each one of us. Probably we have no idea about our previous crimes or mistakes, negative, wrong actions and omissions in our previous human existences. But without exception, all of us have these psychological flaws, defects inside of us. Only through self-observation is possible to recognize them, to detect them, to know them. And even when we get surprised about the reality of each one of these psychological flaws inside of each one of us, it's necessary to don't forget never ever that we are not them, that we go beyond them. Only if we release the virtue that is trapped inside of each one of them. These are unfortunate creations, but it's only possible to purify ourselves, to release the truth from inside of each one of us, which is our inner being, our consciousness, and right now is trapped inside of each one of our psychological liars. By establishing self-observation in our inner daily work, it's possible to clean our 8th infradimension. Number 9, also called the sphere of Neptune. Yes, this one is related intimately, associated intimately with the planet Neptune of our solar system. And here, yes, it's located, this infradimension, this 9th sphere, in our sexual apparatus. Literally, in our sexual apparatus. Many of our psychological defects control our sexual apparatus at any time of the day, and make us to commit different mistakes in our sexual life as well. Psychological defects or flaws that are related, associated with this sphere, with this 9th and last infradimension, are our own traitors. And this defect, this psychological flaw, is subdivided in 3 different psychological groups of defects. Number one, our desires. And when we talk about our traitors, is that we are traitors of our own inner being. We've been betraying our own inner being, our consciousness, our inner God, with our desires. Sometimes, and please, I don't want to bother anyone here, but remember, sometimes we prefer to watch television than practicing meditation. Sometimes we prefer to drink alcohol on Friday, for example, on Friday at night, that make an astral travel practice, for example. The desire of practicing masturbation instead of respecting sex more, of analyzing about our sexual creative energy. So we are traitors of our own inner being. Our justifications, for example. Number two, second subdivision of our own traitor is the whole justifications and excuses that we give in life to don't make the work for our inner being. All right? Many of us probably have said different type of excuses, justifications, instead of recognizing our mistakes to finally start a serious process of regeneration with correct procedures, techniques, to be different, to change from inside. And third subdivision of this psychological defect is the bad will. Do we carry bad will for practicing meditation inside of us? Do we carry inside of us bad will to practice astral travel? Do we have inside bad will to delete our ego due to too many justifications and excuses, trying to defend ego at any price? For sure, we do have goodwill. Not all of us. Remember always that, please. But probably many of us have goodwill to watch TV, going to the streams. We do have goodwill for drinking alcohol. All right? We do have goodwill, probably some of us or many of us, I don't know, for doing drugs. We do have goodwill for judging others instead of judging ourselves. But we do have bad will for starting a serious process of self-observation, for example. For trying to make the inner petition to our Divine Mother when, for example, we are feeling the desire of watching pornography. We are controlled by our own bad will to make the inner petition to our Divine Mother to delete that inner desire of masturbating ourselves, for example, of that laziness, for example. So we are full of bad will inside of us. Not all of us. Remember that always. I need to insist on it always. We have every type of justifications, excuses, wrong, negative, unacceptable concepts about life, about spiritual purification. And we can continue like that, for sure. But believe it or not, we're traders of our own inner being. And what we know internally nowadays is that more than the 85% and even more of that of the sexual apparatus of our mankind are too degenerated already. The sexual apparatus of our society, in each one of us, female or male human machines, are too degenerated already due to this reality. These desires, justification or excuses, bad wills, are degenerating our sexual apparatus, are making us traitors. Well, all this procedure, all this information about these 9 infradimensions of each one of us are known as knowledge of oneself. And from these infradimensions, we may release the light which is inside of each one of these psychological flaws. And that is also called wisdom. We may become wisdom people, but being practitioners. Only practice makes perfect. Only practice makes perfect. You can read thousands of books. You can listen to different types of audios. You can watch different types of videos. But it won't make you a master. Never. We should be our own masters, but it is only releasing the consciousness that is trapped inside of each one of our psychological flaws or defects through that technique called psychological death. Self-observation and the inner petition to our Divine Mother. As soon as we detect any psychological defect that we detect inside, and we'll feel the change immediately. For sure, we'll feel the change. Gradually, our inner vibration will increase. In each one of our infradimensions is trapped our own Mercury. This Mercury is necessary. It's a need if we want to create the inner bodies through sexual alchemy, to know the superior, the higher dimensions of our nature, of our universe. Also, if we apply the psychological death daily, as much as we can gradually, we'll decontaminate our sexual creative energy, which is our Saint Mercury. And working like this, it's absolutely possible to balance our inner magnetic centers, to balance the magnetic centers, the 5 lower magnetic centers. It's an urgency. If we honestly want to regenerate ourselves and at the same time to create the 5 solar bodies through sexual alchemy. To be authentic initiates of the White Brotherhood. And later, become ourselves in authentic spiritual masters. But it's only possible deleting our entire ego, purifying our mercury, releasing the light which is trapped, releasing the wisdom which is trapped inside of each one of our psychological defects. If we don't eliminate our ego, we'll continue as we are, from existence to existence, dying deceived. Probably one of the worst things of life is to die deceived. Well, thank you very much for attending this new conference, and well, see you someday again, okay? Thank you. Bye.